Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Monday. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. A Whitefish, Montana woman targeted in a troll storm is awarded $14 million.
That order today from a federal magistrate as he orders the publisher of a major neo-Nazi website to fork over the dollars in damages for threats made on the Daily Stormer website page 2 years ago.
Tanya Gersh filed the federal lawsuit in April of 2017, claiming Andrew Anglin had used his site to launch a troll storm against her.
The online offensive came after the Whitefish community became embroiled in a debate over the white supremacist movement. Gersh said her family had received more than 700 threats from Anglin and his followers, threats which have continued ever since.
Last week, Gersh's attorneys pressed for a default judgment in the case after Anglin refused to respond to the court's orders.
Federal Magistrate Judge Jeremiah Lynch said the $14 million is for Gersh's lost wages, damages, pain, and suffering, with $2 million of the award for future pain and suffering.
In June, another federal judge ordered Anglin to pay $4.1 million to a Muslim American radio host after Anglin accused him of terrorism.
Well, President Trump doubled down on a controversy of his own making, again attacking 4 freshman Democratic congresswomen.
Today, those 4 lawmakers punched back at the president's racist tweets, with some calling for his impeachment. CBS's Nicole Killian has more from Capitol Hill.
4 freshman Democratic congresswomen known as the Squad pushed back Monday against racist tweets over the weekend from President Trump.
He does not know how to defend his policies. So what he does is attack us personally.
On Twitter, President Trump suggested the lawmakers go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came. And Monday, he dug in.
If you're not happy here, then you can leave. As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave.
All 4 Democratic women are American citizens, and only Ilhan Omar was born outside of the U.S. She became a U.S. citizen in 2000 after emigrating from Somalia. The congresswomen denounced the president and said they're focused on legislating.
This is a distraction, and we should not take the bait.
Despite differing views with the so-called Squad, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats plan to introduce a resolution condemning the president's remarks as early as Tuesday. Some Republicans are now saying the president was wrong.
The tweets are racist and xenophobic, period, in the story.
The president's remarks are inappropriate. I mean, there are many legitimate criticisms you can make of those 4 members of Congress, but you shouldn't use terminology like that.
President Trump said he's not worried about the uproar.
It doesn't concern me because many people agree with me.
Some GOP lawmakers defended the president, saying he's just frustrated. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Now, the comments prompted the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee to ask Capitol Police to reevaluate member security.
Well, most Republican lawmakers remain silent about President Trump's latest tweet storm, but Montana U.S. Senator Steve Daines jumped into the middle of the fray with some strong words of support.
Now, Daines sending a tweet of his own today, quote, "Montanans are sick and tired of listening to anti-American, anti-Semite, radical Democrats trash our country and our ideals. This is America. We're the greatest country in the world. I stand with President Donald Trump."
Montana's Democratic Senator Jon Tester also responding in a tweet saying, "We should be able to disagree on policy and politics without devolving into divisive, hateful rhetoric. President Trump's comments were reprehensible and far beneath the office of the presidency."
In other news, new totals tonight surrounding fundraising dollars from Montana's congressional candidates. In the race for the House, Democrat Kathleen Williams leads with $430,000. Tom Winter of Missoula pulled in $130,000. Republican Matt Rosendale, so far, $263,000. And in just 2 weeks, Secretary of State Corey Stapleton says he's raised $108,000. And for Senate, incumbent Steve Daines racked up $1.3 million. Now, other candidates either didn't release their numbers today or have not been in the race long enough to file reports.
Montana Governor Steve Bullock now faces an ethics complaint. The state Republican Party filed the issue against Bullock over his use of Montana Highway Patrol officers for security as he campaigns for president. But as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, the governor had already taken steps to head off the criticism and controversy.
When Governor Bullock traveled to Iowa to kick off his presidential campaign in mid-May, he had his usual security detail of 2 Montana Highway Patrol officers. We reported then that the state Justice Department pays the bill for Bullock's security, whether he's campaigning or not. Within the next 2 weeks, a Republican Political Action Committee and the state GOP criticized the Democratic governor for campaigning on the public dime. And Republican Attorney General Tim Fox notified the governor that highway patrol officers would no longer accompany Bullock on campaign trips. And finally, last Friday, State GOP Chairman Don Kaltschmidt filed a formal ethics complaint with the State Political Practices Office, saying Bullock is violating the law by using state resources to campaign. But as of 2 weeks ago, the governor amended his security agreement with the Justice Department and said going forward his presidential campaign will pay any incidental expenses incurred by a security detail while he campaigns. Those include travel, lodging, and meal expenses. The governor's office says it does not include the officers' salaries because that cost will be paid anyways no matter what the governor is doing. Bullock's office also says it has asked the State Commissioner of Political Practices for an advisory opinion to make sure the arrangement meets state law. The Commissioner's office confirmed Monday it has received the ethics complaint and the governor's request, but had no further comment. We also asked if the governor's presidential campaign planned to reimburse the state for any incidental security costs incurred before the new agreement took effect. They said no, because that activity was under the old agreement, which says Justice decides when to provide the security and pays for it. Governor Bullock was in Helena Monday at a meeting of the State Land Board and for a news conference on a mine cleanup project. But on Tuesday, he heads out for Washington, D.C., New York, and Iowa on another presidential campaign trip, and state security will be with him. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Governor Bullock is one of 24 Democrats vying for the party's presidential nomination in 2020.
On the weather scene tonight, Bob, we expected another crazy night of storms, but it looks like Montana missed out and they hit northern Wyoming instead.
Just kind of veered off a little bit to the right, but that's okay. Wyoming did get some good stuff out of it. Let me show you what's happening out there right now. Doppler radar shows you the showers are just kind of winding down as they travel across south central Montana into the central part of the state. The stuff that hit Sheridan, we actually had some severe thunderstorms in that area earlier on. I even had reports of 1 3/4 inch size hail moving into that region, but you'll notice here there's still a lot of lightning. This is a lot of cloud to ground lightning in that area. This is very dangerous, and it continues to push its way in towards the Dakotas tonight. But you'll notice when it comes to the storm reports, well, we had quite a bit of hail. Places like Bighorn, Wyoming had 1 inch hail. Other one went lighter, had 1/4 inch size hail, had 0.6 inches of precipitation over at Weston, and had some pretty strong gusty winds, 60-mile-per-hour winds at a place called Spotted Horse in northern Wyoming. So that's where most of the action was tonight here in Montana. Just some scattered rain showers, some of them kind of heavy, but when it comes to hail, not that big stuff. And of course, no one's complaining about that. We'll have more in your forecast in a few more minutes.
Not complaining at all. Thank you, Bob.
Not at all. Thanks, Bob. 2 mountain lion sightings over the weekend have people on high alert in Alkali Creek and on the other side of the rims near MSUB.
Campus police put out a warning to be on the lookout. That cat is believed but not confirmed to be the same mountain lion seen on Alkali Creek Road. Bob Gibson with Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks says it's not unusual this time of year, and also that no more reported sightings have come in.
A couple tips just in case you do see one. Do not approach or run from the lion. Try to appear larger than the lion and be as vocal as you can, but talk calmly.
Also, just be extra careful of any small animals and children running around, and clean up your garbage.
A 15-year-old patient at Shodair Children's Hospital has died after being hit by a vehicle on I-15 in Helena. It happened about a half-mile south of Capitol Interchange on I-15 just before 2:30 today. Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Coroner Leo Dutton says the victim, 15-year-old Kayla Neal, is from Missoula. In a press release, Shodair said Neal broke the fire alarm, causing the hospital's locks to open, and ran from the building. Helena Police Chief Steve Hagan says Neal walked out onto the southbound lanes of the interstate and was hit by a woman driving a Dodge truck.
A rockfall climbing accident that killed a Gallatin County search and rescue team member yesterday leaves one of his climbing partners in intensive care here in Billings tonight, as Travis Swanson and 2 other search and rescue members were climbing Mount Cowan. He and a fellow climber, Will Hitchcock, were swept downslope when a rock fell. Park and Gallatin County crews were able to recover Swanson and rescue Hitchcock, who's listed in fair condition now at St. Vincent Healthcare.
It wasn't their fault. There's things that you have no control over. They did an outstanding job, Jackson especially. he pretty much saved Will's life, and which is amazing in the circumstances that was happening. But you just, you can't be too careful, but you also have things that are out of your control.
Swanson had been with Gallatin County Search and Rescue for 12 years.
A weekend filled with aerial displays, hands-on learning, and the sights and sounds of America's military.
The first of its kind open house at Malmstrom Air Base in Great Falls was a big success. Air Base commanders told MTN News today they estimate around 13,000 people turned out for that event. The F-22 Raptor put on an extra show on Sunday to make up for weather delays on Saturday.
Malmstrom officials say they'd like to give a big thank you to everyone who supported and attended the 2019 open house.
One of this weekend's performers has a special connection to the Great Falls Air Base.
Joey Baker is a pilot with the U.S. Army Golden Knights, the parachute team that showed off high-flying tricks this weekend. But before joining the Army, Baker was in the Air Force. In fact, Malmstrom was his first duty location as a missileer in the late 90s.
And now he's getting ready to retire and flying one of his last air shows back where his military career began.
So it's kind of cool to get that full circle, even though it's, back in the Army now, but to come back full circle and get one of my last air shows to be here.
Well, coming up on tonight's 10 o'clock news, some lawmakers are hoping to clean house and give rights to domestic workers for the first time.
Plus, a Montana girl has so many reasons to smile, including the opportunity to smile at all. We'll share her story.
And later in sports, the Frontier Conference may be changing, but sometimes change is good.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.